What if the world's most dangerous threats are not the ones blasted across breaking news banners, but the ones whispered in corridors, hinted at in passing, so faint that only the most attentive catch them? What if, while everyone's eyes are glued to the spectacle, the true game is played in the shadows, with quiet words that can change everything, everywhere, for everyone, including you? Picture this. In a world already tense with uncertainty, Russia, with the calm of a chess grandmaster, issues a simple, understated announcement. There are no grand parades in Red Square, no dramatic footage of missiles slicing the sky, no chest-thumping generals. Instead, a spokesperson stands before the world and, with chilling composure, declares, "We have new weapons." No details, no images, no gloating. Just those 4 words. And in that moment, the mood in the capitals of Europe changes. The silence that follows is not just a pause. It is a living thing, heavy and electric, stretching from Berlin to Paris, from Brussels to Washington. Across the ocean, the usual political debates and lunchtime routines, so often performed with casual confidence, are replaced by hurried consultations and nervous glances. It is as if someone has just reset the game board, but no one knows the new rules. Consider how such an understated statement can send ripples through the highest levels of government. In Berlin, the German Chancellor's advisors scramble to understand what, exactly, has changed. In Paris, seasoned diplomats cancel their evening plans to attend emergency meetings. Even in Brussels, where the European Union's bureaucracy is famed for its slow pace, there is a sudden urgency. The usual bravado vanishes. No one dares to make bold declarations or issue threats. Instead, a tense silence reigns, as every leader weighs the risks of saying too much or too little. Far away, in Beijing, a place known for its stoic diplomacy and aversion to emotional displays, officials make a rare gesture, a subtle nod of respect to Moscow's calculated move. It is a signal that, beneath the still surface, the tectonic plates of global power are shifting. China's state television, usually so measured, airs a stern commentary. A single sentence from Russia is enough to make their enemies tremble. Even the most seasoned NATO analysts, who have weathered countless crises, are forced to pause and reconsider. The message is clear. Something fundamental has changed, and no one is certain what comes next. This is not an isolated incident. Throughout history, true power has often been wielded not with shouts, but with whispers. Think of the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s, when a few veiled signals between Moscow and Washington brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. Or consider the secretive arms buildups of the Cold War, when intelligence analysts pored over grainy satellite photos, searching for hints of new missiles or hidden silos. In each case, it was not the open threats that mattered most, but the unspoken possibilities, the things left unsaid. Today, that same dynamic is at work, but with a 21st century twist. The language of power has evolved. No longer do leaders bang their fists on tables or parade their arsenals down city streets. Instead, they drop careful hints about advanced technologies, new military doctrines, or secret alliances, forcing rivals to guess what is real and what is not. This ambiguity is a weapon in itself, a form of psychological warfare that keeps adversaries off balance and anxious. Take, for example, Russia's mention of new weapons. Analysts speculate endlessly about what this means. Is it a reference to hypersonic missiles that can evade all current defense systems, a technology Russia has specifically boasted about in recent years? In 2018, Russian President Vladimir Putin unveiled the Avangard and Kinzhal systems, claiming they could travel at speeds exceeding Mach 20 and strike targets anywhere in the world. Western defense experts scrambled to verify these claims, but even the possibility was enough to send shockwaves through NATO command centers. Or perhaps the statement alludes to the mysterious Burevestnik, a nuclear-powered cruise missile reportedly capable of flying for thousands of miles, looping around enemy defenses in unpredictable patterns. When Chinese commentator Wei Dongshu, a master of diplomatic hints, subtly gestured toward this weapon on international television, It was a deliberate act. He explained, without confirming, that such missiles were nearly impossible to intercept, able to bypass even the most advanced air defense systems. For NATO planners, this was a nightmare scenario. The notion that there might be no defense, none whatsoever, against such weapons forced them to rethink every strategy, every assumption. This is not just speculation for military wonks. The implications filter down to the daily lives of millions. When governments feel threatened, they change course, sometimes overnight. Policies shift, budgets are rewritten, laws appear with little debate. The public is rarely consulted. Instead, leaders act in the name of national security, often demanding sacrifices from their citizens in the form of higher taxes, longer work hours, or reduced social benefits. Consider the situation in Germany. For decades, the German social contract was built on a simple promise: work hard, contribute to society, and you will enjoy security in retirement. Generous pensions, universal health care, and a robust safety net were the cornerstones of the German model. But in recent years, that model has begun to fray. The retirement age, once set at a comfortable 65, now edges ever closer to 73. Each year, the government cites new fiscal pressures, aging populations, economic slowdowns, and yes, increased defense spending, as reasons to delay retirement and trim benefits. For many Germans, this shift is not just an economic issue, it is a profound betrayal. Imagine a factory worker who has spent 4 decades on the assembly line, counting on a promised pension, only to find he must work almost a decade longer than expected. The dream of leisurely golden years, spent traveling or enjoying time with grandchildren, slips out of reach. Instead, the new reality is one of endless work, mounting exhaustion, and growing uncertainty. The numbers tell a stark story. In a recent survey, nearly 3/4 of Germans expressed distrust in their government's ability to protect their interests. Protest marches snake through the streets of Berlin and Munich as citizens demand answers. Yet each time, the system absorbs the outrage, making minor adjustments, but never reversing course. The machinery of the state grinds forward, demanding more and offering less. Meanwhile, Germany's resources are being redirected. Billions of euros, once earmarked for social programs, are now allocated to military aid and international commitments. The justification is always the same: security. But for ordinary people, the trade-off is clear. As the social safety net grows thinner, anxiety rises. It is not just an economic problem, it is a crisis of trust. Now shift your gaze eastward. In Ukraine, the consequences of silent power plays are even more immediate and more terrifying. Here, the war is not confined to the trenches. It seeps into every aspect of life, from the way people move through their cities to the choices they make about their futures. Imagine being a young man in Kiev or Kharkiv. The threat does not come only from enemy artillery, but from your own government's conscription officers. Digital registries and biometric checkpoints track every eligible citizen, making it nearly impossible to avoid the draft. Some, desperate to escape, risk everything to slip past patrols. There are stories, now common, of men hiding in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a place once synonymous with radioactive death, now serving as a bizarre sanctuary from state authority. A recent report told of a small group who live in abandoned villages, surviving on canned food and filtered water, their phones switched off to avoid detection. They would rather face the lingering dangers of radiation than be forced into a war they do not believe in. This is the new reality: survival over hope, autonomy over allegiance, trust in the old ways, family, friends, secret networks, rather than in the official channels. In both Germany and Ukraine, the same pattern emerges. When the state's demands are delivered not with a shout, but with a whisper, an unnoticed law change, a silent policy shift, ordinary people are left scrambling to adapt. Security, once a given, becomes something fragile, easily lost. History offers many parallels. In the Soviet Union during the 1930s, government edicts were rarely broadcast with fanfare. Instead, changes to rationing or labor requirements were quietly implemented, leaving citizens to discover the new reality through rumor and personal experience. Those who failed to notice the changes often paid dearly, losing jobs, homes, or even their freedom. Similarly, in East Germany, the notorious Stasi operated not with open threats, but with quiet surveillance and subtle intimidation. People learned to read between the lines, to trust only those closest to them, to keep their eyes and ears open for any sign of danger. Today the tools may have changed: smartphones, facial recognition, digital tracking, but the effect is the same. When institutions built to protect you begin to prey on you, trust collapses. People retreat into whispers, rumors, and old alliances, forsaking the official narratives for their own survival. Across Europe, a chilling message echoes. If the rules can change overnight, if the state can demand your labor, your freedom, even your future, how do you defend yourself? When the safety net is pulled away, you must learn to read the silent cues, to adapt quickly, or risk being swept away by forces beyond your control. The cost of missing these signals can be catastrophic, not just for nations, but for individuals. Policy blunders, failed deterrence, and disastrous miscalculations can threaten your finances, your safety, your very freedom. Misreading the silence can cost you your future. But what would it take to break this cycle of silent control? Is it even possible to push back against an enemy you can barely see or hear? The answer lies in vigilance and collective action. First, understand that in today's world, open threats are only the surface. Your first line of defense must be attention, not just to what is shouted, but to what slips quietly away. Overnight rule changes, vanished announcements, or warnings so carefully worded they sound harmless. The gravest dangers move in these hushes, operating while the spotlight points elsewhere. Ask yourself, who benefits when every story is about sacrifice, struggle, and making do? When survival itself is twisted into surrender, you must question the systems that demand it. Refuse to accept narratives that frame hardship as normal, or treat basic rights as rare privileges. Push back against secrecy wherever you find it. Demand transparency from your local officials, your national leaders, and international institutions. When subtle shifts go unchallenged, the unacceptable soon becomes routine. Remember the fate of the Roman Republic, when a slow erosion of citizen rights, through emergency decrees and secret senatorial sessions, paved the way for dictatorship. History shows that silence, left unchallenged, can be deadly. For your own strength, seek out diverse sources of truth. Relying on a single voice or platform is dangerous. Build networks of trust, friends, neighbors, entire communities. If the ground suddenly shifts beneath you, you will not be stranded. Keep your choices open to protect not just your survival, but your dignity and self-determination. Above all, remember, refusal can be its own form of power. Quiet resistance, even when invisible, can echo louder than any official decree. The solidarity movement in Poland began with small acts: workers refusing to obey unjust orders, people sharing forbidden news at kitchen tables. Over time, these whispers grew into a roar that toppled a regime. Your refusal to normalize the intolerable is a shield no one can take from you. If you fail to notice these silent power plays, you risk everything: your savings, your health, your very freedom, becoming a pawn in someone else's covert war. But if you see and answer these patterns, you hold the key to your security and sanity. Consider practical steps you can take. Stay informed by following independent journalists and watchdog groups, not just government press releases. Attend local meetings where policy changes are discussed, even if the topics seem dry or technical. Sometimes the most consequential decisions are hidden in the fine print. Learn basic digital security practices to protect your personal information from surveillance. Form mutual aid groups with neighbors so that if one person notices a troubling trend, others are warned in time. If you are a parent, teach your children to ask questions, to seek evidence, and to think critically. If you are a worker, join or support unions and advocacy groups that can amplify individual voices into collective action. If you are retired or nearing retirement, stay connected with community organizations that monitor changes in pension or healthcare laws. And do not be afraid to speak up. Even a single letter to a local representative, a question at a town hall, or a post on social media can have a ripple effect. When enough people refuse to accept the unacceptable, change is possible. With so much at risk, understanding these quiet shifts is not just wise, it is essential. The next beat will show how small acts of awareness can shape your fate. In a world where whispers hold more power than shouts, the future belongs to those who listen closely. Now, as Europe quivers, not from bombs but from silence, true power moves happen in the shadows. Gone is the era of roaring armies and open protest. Instead, reforms pass in the dead of night, quiet threats ripple through backrooms, and a single calm statement, "We possess new weapons," can send shockwaves from Berlin to Washington. No one knows if it is a bluff, a warning, or the start of something irreversible. This is an age where silence is more dangerous than noise. Your fate is decided by private conversations, late-night legislation, and leaders who reveal nothing while altering everything. The sharpest analysts lie awake, parsing every pause, every unspoken word, searching for the truths that slip through the cracks. The greatest threats are not those you see coming, but those hidden in plain view, waiting to strike before you even realize. You stand at a crossroads. Dismiss these silent signals, and you may wake to find your savings vanished, your freedom restricted, your safety an illusion, all while you watch the wrong horizon. But those who notice the gaps, the hesitations, the things left unsaid, can adapt, defend, and safeguard what matters most. Train yourself to hear what is not spoken. The choices you make now, whether to be alert or oblivious, will decide if you become a victim of history or the author of your own survival.